odd them again, that can affect who wins a presidential election because the entire electoral college can hinge on Wisconsin. The House majority, the Senate majority, those things can depend on hairline races in Wisconsin, the only state where 5 of the last 7 presidential races has come down to less than 1 percentage point, and both of the last 2 U.S. Senate races. Those are national consequences that affect every American across the nation. Things like the abortion ban just affect Wisconsinites. But the other dimension for this is that the question of whether Elon Musk can blunder into any state, drop tens of millions of dollars, and buy control of the state's highest court, that's at stake here. If Elon Musk succeeds in helping Brad Schimmel to defeat Susan Crawford, then you can expect that this movie will be repeated again and again. He will go in and try to use these giant giveaways to bribe voters in state after state. If you don't want to see that happen, you have a stake in ensuring that Susan Crawford wins this election so that this country is not transformed into an oligarchy where the richest man in the world can buy whatever electoral outcome he wants.
And so you mentioned Musk and what he's doing with his money. The state attorney general's court filing argues that Musk's $1 million prizes could really affect public confidence in the validity of this election. Do you think that's true? And how likely is it, do you think, that this Supreme Court is going to intervene here?
Well, it's a crime to offer someone something of value in order to induce them to vote or to not vote. But whatever happens with the court, what we know is that Elon Musk sees Brad Schimmel as someone who's for sale because he's seen that Brad Schimmel has been for sale throughout his career. And Brad Schimmel and Elon Musk are desperate and willing to try anything to win in this election. I think that voters are going to reject that kind of corruption. They want a common sense judge who rules no matter who's in front of them, whether they're the richest person in the world or a regular person, that everyone gets the same set of laws. They don't want someone who gives special treatment to their ultra-wealthy far-right campaign backers. So I think that there's a real chance that this backfires on Elon Musk, on Brad Schimmel, and that voters choose Susan Crawford in part to say absolutely not to this hurricane of money howling into a state to try to tip a judicial outcome and buy off a judge.
So I do want to listen to what Brad Schimmel said on Fox News this morning about Musk's influence on this race. This is what he said.
I don't control any of the spending from any outside group, whether it's Elon Musk or anyone else that has an organization spending money in this race. I've run a 72-county race in Wisconsin. I've campaigned in every county for 16 months. I'm not running for anything for Elon Musk or any other person. And frankly, the only thing that anyone, including President Trump and his endorsement of my campaign, all he asked of me was, Brad, do you reject activist judges? Are you going to follow the law? That's exactly what I've committed to anybody, whether it's President Trump, Elon Musk, or any donors or supporters or voters in Wisconsin.
So, Ben, that's his argument. What's your reaction to that?
Well, he's saying that on TV now, right before the election. He's also said that he had to go to Menards and buy knee pads so he could crawl around on his knees and say, please, 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 to national donors to invest. He said that Donald Trump keeps losing in court, and this can only stop in the courts, and Trump needs a support network. He's campaigned in front of a 20-foot inflatable Trump balloon. His TV ads are all about Trump's endorsement for him, and they say that if Susan Crawford's elected, what Trump is doing may not trickle down to Wisconsin. Elon Musk's flyers all say that Brad Schimmel will advance Trump's agenda. He's sure running like somebody who's going to operate as Trump's bagman, just the same as he described himself as Scott Walker, a former Republican governor's bagman, when he was attorney general. None of that has anything to do with the law. That is a political agenda to support MAGA and to support, everything that Elon Musk is trying to do as he floods money into this race. That side is, I think, the thing that voters find repellent. There's a real sense that things are out of control in this country and that Brad Schimmel would be part of making that happen in Wisconsin as well.
I do want to ask you before we go about what President